And with this session here today, we have a great uh, entrepreneur and innovator. I would like to introduce Dr. Mohan Kancharla Garu. Dr. Mohan Kancharla holds a doctorate in business administration from Swiss School of Business and Management, Geneva, and is an experienced management consultant with over 3 decades of experience in information technology and consultancy. A career TCS, he has held various leadership positions at Tata Consultancy Services and superannuated as strategic advisor. He is a certified management consultant and a trusted advisor to C-level executives of Fortune 500 companies worldwide on IT-enabled business transformation across industries. He is a co-innovator of strategy validation framework that is patent granted, recognized by CEO today as one of top 100 global management consultants and awarded CEO Today Management Consulting Award during 2018 period. He is a passionate designer, design thinker, certified in innovation of products and services at MIT's approach to design thinking. His doctoral research was on an empirical study on the application of design thinking in consulting in the IT industry in India, and invited faculty on design thinking at leading management institutes, industry bodies, and a facilitator of design thinking workshops. He is the author of very popular books, 4 books, that is Consulting a Practitioner's Perspective, Design Thinking in Consulting, Design Grid, a conceptual framework for design thinking and consulting, storytelling in design thinking, and also published several articles on strategy, governance, consulting, design, thinking, etc. He is also a leader in ESG in leading journals. Mohan is a certified corporate director and a certified ESG professional and a certified executive coach and certified in business storytelling, competent Toastmaster, and also a prominent speaker at 2X TEDx speaker. Presently, he is staying at Chennai, and he also lives with his wife, Mary Rajeshwari Garu, and 2 daughters, I think, Kezia Harshita and Nikia Shushmita. And Mohan Kancharla is a DBA, maybe it is a database administrator, a trusted advisor and a thinker, a think tank, and for many Fortune 500 companies. He is a consulting catalyst and also a researcher on various management studies. This is the brief of Dr. Mohan Kancharla Garu. I request all our faculty members to assemble your students because it is going to be very, very important and very much apt session for today's entrepreneurial journey. As you all know, our Honorable CM Garu, the visionary, who always says that now the theme is one home, one entrepreneur. So, higher studies should evolve, higher education should evolve from job seekers to job providers. This is the essence of the topic today, where today's speaker, the very prominent speaker who has a stint in School of Business and Management at Geneva and also MIT, will be a mind-boggling session. Definitely all our students definitely get benefit out of it. And sir, this is only an introductory session. We would like to take your help for training at least a set of faculty as well as the students who can excel in their innovations, in your design thinking, in their entrepreneurial journey. That will be on a physical mode, sir. So now the floor is open for you. And I request all the faculty members, all the students, please unmute your video only, not your audio, because audio will be disturbing. And for the last 30 minutes, it will be open for open discussion. You can interact with the today's speaker. You can get resolved all your doubts. With this, I welcome you, sir, for making a presence, your valuable time, also sparing your valuable time and addressing all our faculty as well as students. The YouTube is also going live, sir, live streaming, and this will be shared to different colleges. And even after this session, also the students will watch this your talk show today. And thank you. And floor is open for you.
Sure.
Now start, sir. Once again, I request all faculty members, please mute yourself with the audio, whereas you can unmute your video. Thank you,
Right.
sir.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. It's a privilege to be in front of this kind of an audience, especially when I'm speaking to the
Go ahead.
principals and various faculty members. uh, Primarily because I learned so much from all of y'all, all the teachers, from my school to college and engineering, and then also in my MBA thing. In some ways, this is probably my small way of repaying my debt to everybody who has given me so much of a learning kind of thing. So with that thoughts, we will cover design. We'll talk about design thinking today, and like Sir had introduced, this is only a theoretical overview session. I will share some concepts, some of the applications, how design thinking got applied in various industry verticals, and more importantly, we will see how design thinking can be applied in the education sector also, from a faculty or a student standpoint. Like, so we look at one such case study, one such scenario. That's actually the output of a 2-day workshop, which I will probably have to run with you in about 20 to 30 minutes. Right? So with that brief introduction, just as a quick thing, is my screen visible, please?
You are visible, sir, but it is not shared yet.
No. So I was visible, but not the screen, is it?
Yeah, screen is not shared.
Right. So
Sir, I would like to convey one thing. Our Honorable Chairman, Professor Madhumurthy Garu, is very much interested
right,
in so many cutting edge technologies because being a technical man from NIT and AICTE, he's more focused on all these technology, whether it is quantum AI or upcoming fabrication, semiconductor. And he want to train these technologists and also entrepreneurs. So you also can add something in your session
right,
about these cutting edge technologies and entrepreneurial journey also. Thank you, sir. Yeah, now it is visible, sir. It is visible.
right. Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Yes, and I did have a couple of conversations with Professor Madhigaru and your chairman, and we spoke about various topics and how we can cover that. But we'll come to that, and I'll take all your inputs and we'll factor that into our working sessions, kind of a thing. So moving on to design thinking itself. Now, while we all have been hearing about design thinking in the recent past, design thinking has actually been present and prevalent from the 1950s onwards. Okay, it's had its genesis as design science in the 1950s by an eminent researcher and a serial entrepreneur, Buckminster Fuller from MIT. And then in the 60s, the American US society started to convert the design science into what they started to call it as industrial design. And only in the 1970s or late 69, 70, it is the formal term of design thinking got coined by Nobel laureate Herbert Simon. He's also an economist and a Nobel laureate, and he coined the term design thinking. And later in 60s, Donald Norman, he propagated what we now hear as human-centered design or user experience design, was propagated by Don Norman in the 60s. And in the 80s is when Ralph Foster, one of the SAP founder, he started the Stanford Design School or School of Design, which popularly came to be known as the Stanford School of Design. And that is where design thinking as a formal course took shape. And the founding director, David Kelly, he was the one who, and he and his brother Tom Kelly, both of them are, one of the pioneers and the major contributors to design thinking and the space as a whole, and they propagated the design thinking frameworks, and slowly from the academia they slowly brought it into the business world through one of the design firm that they created, which is called as IDEO kind of thing. So that is the a quick snapshot of the evolution of design thinking. It's like I said, it's been prevalent for the last 75 odd years, but nonetheless, it has found its roots in business and also becoming more and more popular in the business world, and especially in the Indian context, also in the recent innovations or entrepreneurial journeys or product design. Probably in the last, I would say about 10 to 15 years, it is becoming more and more popular kind of a thing. So, like I said, now when we think about design and design thinking, now design in thinking from a product standpoint, it is obvious. It is very easy for us to relate to design thinking as a product. I mean, again, we talk about Steve Jobs and his iPhones and the amazing innovations and creation products that he has created. Design thinking in services is also, to some extent, we can relate to that and we can understand that. Design thinking in services, it could be your banking service or insurance service, or maybe a hotel or a hospitality service, and so on and so forth. We will look at some examples. And subsequent to that, design thinking of late is also being applied in the consulting world. That is where most of my work and my research has been in the last 5 6 years or so. We've seen it applicable, that it can also be applied in the consulting world, like what was shared in my introduction. That was part of my doctoral thesis. What started as a conceptual framework, got validated through a formal survey and focus group discussions, and that was very heartening to see. And in the more recent past, we've been applying design thinking in the social sector. It could be in a corporate social responsibility of organizations, or in the climate change and ESG and the sustainability areas also, kind of a thing. And fundamentally, design thinking can be applied in any industry and in any vertical, kind of a thing, because prima facie it's not a new technique or an innovative tool that you would get. It just allows you to continue to solve the problem the way you're doing, but it provides you a certain new tools or techniques that are available, which you can complement them as necessary, and it can give you a different perspective. We'll see how some of these minor differences in the case that I spoke about, design thinking in education, that I'll cover towards the end, right? Now, if one were to look for a formal definition of design thinking, in one word, it says that design thinking is thinking as a designer would, right? So the best analogy could be, for example, if we were to engage an architect as in somebody who designs, who creates a blueprint for us. If I were to build a certain house, I have a plot of land and I want to build a house. So what we do is that we first engage an architect and he provides a blueprint, kind of a thing. Now, when the architect comes and talks to us, it's not that he comes with a prefabricated model and says that, okay, this is what I know and this is what I think is best for you. It's not so much of an outside in proposition, but it is an inside out solution that he looks out for. Like, he comes and asks you as to what is it that you would require. All right. So I can say that, look, we are a family of four, and I have my parents who come and visit us. So we want a small, ground plus one floor house that we want you to construct. My wife likes gardening, so we need some open space in the front. The kids have a pet dog and a pet cat, so we need some place around the place to move around. We have elderly parents who come and visit us once in a while, so we definitely need one bedroom on the ground floor, so that, because they would not be able to take the stairs, etc. So what the architect is doing is that he's essentially understanding your needs and designing a house which will suit your needs. It's not a precast model or a predefined solution, but it is all about, and that is the essence of design thinking. Design thinking is thinking as a designer would, kind of a thing. Now, if we were to take that mindset, for example, so design thinking mindset is always talked about the desirability. Desirability is what is our users or our customers' unmet needs, kind of a thing. By the way, design thinking does not, it can improve, it's not so much about improvising existing solutions, but it is more about providing innovative solutions that we want to create. And this is probably where the entrepreneurial mindset and the innovation and leveraging the new technologies could shape in. It is all about catering to your customers' unmet needs, kind of a thing, right? Many a time we were looking for a certain product, we get a product, but it may or may not satisfy all the needs that we would have. There are still one or two needs that are still unmet, kind of thing. And that is the primary focus of design thinking. Once we know the unmet needs, the second component is that can I cater to these solutions? Are these solutions feasible, kind of a thing? Or do I have technological innovations? It could be on AI or data science or machine learning that you talk about, or even quantum computing that we are hearing about of late. Is it technically feasible to provide such solutions, kind of a thing? And I mean, I may want to solve world peace, I may want to solve world hunger, but I mean, is that within my reach? Can I do it? Can I not do it, etc. Kind of a thing. We want to look at the feasibility of such solutions, kind of a thing. Like, and the third dimension is a viability part of it. I mean, this is probably from a business standpoint more in terms of we all have a certain motive. We are looking for certain results, kind of a thing. It could be commercial or a non-commercial kind of a results or an outcomes. But nonetheless, is this solution, though it is technically a feasible solution, is it viable from a business standpoint? Now, the intersection of all of these three is where the innovation takes place. And if we have to solve the human problems, we need to focus on the innovative solutions which operate at the intersection of desirability, feasibility, and viability, kind of a thing. So, that in essence is the design thinking mindset. Now, if I want to develop upon this, there are a few design thinking principles. These are the principles that I kind of corroborated from the various research work that is available on design thinking. It is primarily designed towards the consulting, but they could apply in any industry or any vertical. Now, the principles are the what of design thinking. They are the fundamental rules or the general rules that you call fundamental ideas or general rules that could be true for all circumstances, kind of a thing. Okay, and that's the foundation on which the design thinking lays upon. The first principle is a human-centered design. Human-centered design is all about understanding from a customer's perspective, kind of a thing. What is it that my customers need? It's not so much about what I can, what the customer, what I can do for the customer. It's not about an inside-out push kind of a strategy, but it is more of an outside-in pull strategy to take care of where is it that my customers need most help, for example. The second principle is embracing ambiguity and diversity. This is all about accepting uncertainty as a reality, kind of a thing. So, in today's complex scenarios, whether it is in academic world or in the business world, the problems are quite ambiguous, and the solutions can come from diverse stakeholders. So, we need to accept that uncertainty as a reality. And the best way to create such solutions is that one needs to be open towards radical collaboration. By radical collaboration, I mean that we want to get diverse perspectives. It could be from your competitors, it could be from across industry practices, but wherever it is, we should be open to collaboration. It's all about collaboration, and that kind of leads nicely into the co creating of impactful solutions. Co creation is another key element of design thinking. By co-creating, what happens is that you promote an emotional engagement. If there is a problem, I hear the problem from my customer, and if I create the solution on my own and share it with the customer, then that becomes my solution. On the other hand, if I were to involve the customer in the solution building process also, and we co-create that solution, that would be much more impactful because the customer also has a stake. The customer also feels that this is my solution, I have solved this problem. There is a sense of ownership that builds into the customer, and therefore that can last for a very long period of time. The last fifth principle is implementing and iteratively improvising upon the solutions, kind of a thing. So this is all about finding the small changes and constantly improvising upon the perceived shortcomings, kind of a thing. And this is again another core principle of design thinking, that it encourages us to fail fast. There is nothing wrong in failing fast. We create prototypes, we test it out, we fail, we learn from it, and we continuously evolve and can improvise upon our existing solutions. So these are the five design thinking principles. And along with that, you have what is called as a design thinking practices. Now, the practices are the how of design thinking. They are the actions, tools, or techniques that are available on which you can, create your build upon the create the design thinking solutions, kind of a thing. Now, there are a list of 12 that are fact tabled in here, but that's by no means an exhaustive list. And you would also notice that not all of these are real or new tools that came only because of design thinking. They are all pre-existing solutions. Some of them are very old techniques like interviewing techniques or brainstorming, etc. But they can play a critical role in the design thinking space. So therefore, we select these tools as the design thinking practices kind of a thing. Uh, some of these might become more clear in the example, but just quickly, empathy maps, it's a 2 by 2 grid in terms of capturing your user's pains, gains, what are his thoughts, what are his feelings, etc. User personas are the roles of which the individual plays kind of a thing. Now there is a difference between a stakeholder or a role versus a persona kind of a thing. The my stakeholder, I could be a researcher, I could be a strategic advisor, or or I could be a teacher kind of a thing. But then the persona is that the role that I take at any given point of time. So at this point of a time, I am the teacher for you, teaching you design thinking. But after this, when I take my daughter out in the evening, I my persona becomes that of a father, and so on and so forth. So the personas and the roles are distinct. How might we is a simple HMW statement. It is found that for every problem that you have, just by prefixing how might we at the beginning, you might be able to get a lot of good solutions kind of a thing. So if one were to say that if you want to solve the parking problem, uh, it just says that how might we solve our city's traffic problem? How might we solve our city's traffic parking constraints, like restrictions and congestions, etc. kind of a thing. Storyboarding is a visual tool. It talks about the different scenarios that are there. Interviewing techniques, we're familiar with that. I mean, there is a different way as to how interviews are done in the design thinking context, but it is evolved from the standard interviewing techniques. Brainstorming, we are familiar with the term. Business model canvas is a graphic design. It captures the entire business ecosystem in a 9 building blocks kind of a thing. So that comes in quite handy in terms of plotting the entire business on one single spreadsheet. Journey maps is again a very useful tool for design thinking. It's what we also known as the process maps or a flow charts or the UX maps, etc. that we call. But it is essentially the journey. I mean, if you were to take the example of a cash withdrawal in a bank, for example, what are the different steps that a customer would have to go through? He goes and picks up a form, he takes a form, he fills up the form, etc. Then he gets a token, he waits for his turn, and then he gets his cash back kind of a thing. But by knowing that entire sequence of events and the different people that are involved who service this particular request, it helps us to figure out if there is any bottleneck, if there is anything that is failing in this particular system, then it tells us how we can quickly correct it kind of thing. Many a time we don't get a form, or if we get a form, we don't have a pen. If we have a pen and a paper, then we may not have find a right space to write, or a table or a desk or a flat surface to write kind of a thing. Now by drawing this journey maps, I know where the bottlenecks are, where the time delays are, and also we will know who is accountable or who is responsible for fixing that part of the solution. So that is how we can quickly fix that particular thing. Affinity diagrams, it's all about aggregation. It says that once I know different problem statements, can I group these problems into a collective problem and to solve it together kind of a thing. Morphological analysis is the opposite of affinity. It's all about disaggregation. It says that rather than solving the bigger problem, why don't you solve the problem on its own and to break it up into smaller problems and solve it together. No, the other one, Rascal's hexagon, is something that is new and unique to design thinking. It says that is a question of adjacency kind of a thing. So even though if I have a certain problem and I found a solution for this particular thing, I quickly try to see that, okay, by the way, can I use this solution in another context also kind of a thing. So in the education space, if you found that, one teaching method for a science credit has worked well, then can I take it forward and to replicate it into an arts college, for example? Maybe we discovered a new area. It's all about creating adjacencies and discovering adjacencies and wondering about fitment part of it. Value proposition canvas is more like an end state tool. It is an extension of the business model canvas. Once we have crafted a solution, once we have prototyped it, and once we have tested out that particular solution, we also want to make sure to do one final check in terms of what was the original customer's needs, and have I solved those needs? Have I provided answers? Did I give you a pain reliever or a gain creator? Like either of them did I provide, so that the customer, I have an effective solution, and the impact is going to be high within the customer's context, right? So those are some very quick basic concepts of design thinking. Now let's look at a couple of how design thinking got applied in various verticals, kind of a thing. So if you look at design thinking in banking, this is an exercise that we did in the early 2000 time frame for the Scandinavian bank. Now, the bank at that point of a time, they wanted to create a savings account for millennials, kind of a thing. So most of their customers were elderly people, and they wanted to make sure that their children also create, once they become major, they also have create a separate bank account, and preferably within their own bank, kind of a thing. Now, conventionally, what we would have done is that, okay, you want to create a new savings account. So what are the typical features of a savings account? Like, okay, you need a minimum balance of probably 5,000 rupees. So this is a youngster, so I'll make the minimum balance 1,000 rupees, for example. I give an overdraft facility to a regular a major customer, but for a youngster I don't want to give any overdraft facility. I give a checkbook of 25 leaves. For a millennial, probably I want to give a check leaf of only 10 leaves, for example. So what we are essentially trying to do is that you're reconfiguring a regular savings account. You're not reaching out to the customer. What design thinking advocates is that it advocates we apply the principle of human centered design. We reach out to the end customer and we empathize with their persona, kind of a thing. So when we did this exercise and after we got the brief from our clients, what we actually did is that we reached out to the youngsters. So we went to the colleges, the sports arenas, the shopping malls, etc., and the gyms and all, and try to understand what is it that they require for. And this was a time when internet banking itself was in its nascent stages, and not, there was no mobile banking in those days. But or the feedback was consistently that, look, we need internet banking. I don't want a physical bank. I don't want a checkbook. But all I need is that make sure that I should be able to use my banking services from anywhere. I should not be forced to go to the physical, brick and mortar branch, kind of a thing. So that is what is created out. And we were able to do that only because of applying the principle of human centered design and reaching out to the end customer. Like, okay. The second illustration is in terms of design thinking in the insurance sector. Like, now, if you look at the premiums for auto insurance, for example, conventionally what we do is that the premiums are based upon the price of the asset. So if I have a Maruti car, I might be paying about, whatever, 5,000 rupees as my insurance premium. On the other hand, if I have a BMW, I might be paying about a 1 lakh of rupees as my insurance premium. Now, there the logic is that if there is a repair or a damage that happens to a BMW, the cost of parts and the cost of servicing that is high. Therefore, I want to charge a higher premium as opposed to cost of repairing a Maruti or a small compact car, for example. Now, what design thinking advocated here is that here we took a best practices from another industry. This exercise again was done in 2010, 2012 timeframe in UK, and that was a point of a time when the mobile communications were at its peak, and then we were talking about pay as you go kind of a models, kind of thing, right? Then we said that, okay, why don't I charge the premium based upon the usage of the car as opposed to the as opposed to the cost of the car? And my logic to the logic here is that, so when does a claim be made? A claim is made when the car is on the road, or if there is a breakdown, or if, God forbid, if there is an accident. Now, obviously, a breakdown or an accident doesn't happen in the garage itself, so it needs to be on the road. And in today's traffic conditions and all of that stuff, I might typically use the compact car for my office commute because I have a 20-kilometer commute up and down, and I use my small car on a longer on during the week, and on the weekends, maybe if I were to go out for a long drive, or if I were to take my family out, or if I'm going golfing, for example, I might use the more expensive car, kind of a thing. Now, in this scenario, the smaller car or the less costlier car is on the road more than the more expensive car. So therefore, I would rather choose base my premium based upon the usage of the car as opposed to the cost of the car. And this is something that we got through openness to radical collaboration and by leveraging an industry best practices from the telecom industry. This is an example of the retail or FMCG sector. This is an illustration of Procter and Gamble, and when it's an infant's toothbrush. Like Procter and Gamble, when they launched the Oral-B toothbrush for infants, so you would have seen the small toothbrush that it originally was launched. Now here again, they've not taken it, took it to the R&D department, and they said, okay, look, all they did in the initial first version of the product is they just resized the adult toothbrush. If you look at our toothbrush, it is typically about, the bristles are about 1 inch, and then the stalk is about 6 inches or 8 inches kind of thing. Then I said, okay, since this toothbrush is for an infant, all we need to do is that make the bristles half inch and make the stalk 3 inches, for example. And that didn't sell, and there was a lot of complaints. Then they started to go and observe the end users experience, parents, all these customers. They started to observe how a child is brushing. Now, if you look at the way we adults, after our hand motor skills are developed, we typically hold the toothbrush with our fingers and we start to brush. Now, if you look at if you observe an infant, their hand motor skills are fully not developed, and they typically hold the toothbrush with their full wrist kind of a thing. Now, what happens when you hold with the wrist, and because the stalk is very thin, the toothbrush was slipping and it's falling off on the ground. So then they discovered that the challenge is not so much in terms of the length of the bristles or the length of the stalk, but what you actually need is a very grippy, thick stalk kind of a thing. So that is why you find the infant's toothbrushes which are thick at the handle, and then as opposed to that. Now this is again, you could discover that by adopting an outside-in approach. You prototyped, you tested, and then you improvised upon it. Now, the same illustration was also taken forward by Rubbermaid when they started to manufacture the vegetable peelers. The old vegetable peelers, if you remember, they were all with a steel handle kind of a thing. Now, for elderly people or people with arthritis, etc., the steel handle slips away from them kind of a thing. So what Rubbermaid did then is that they created a very thick rubber handle so that it gives a better grip for the vegetable peeler kind of a thing. So this is another illustration how design thinking helped us to find better or innovative solutions. This is an example from the airlines industry. So suppose if an airline industry like whatever Air India or Indigo, we were to provide value-added services for your preferred customers. Now, what typically happens is that you improvise on our existing services. Everything that you give them a separate check-in counter, you give them extra baggage allowance. There is a lounge that is provided for the business class customers, and within the aircraft there is a more leg space, better service, better food, etc. But all of this is happening within the airport or within the aircraft carrier, and all of this is only an improvisation of the existing services kind of a thing. What design thinking advocates is that embracing ambiguity and diversity itself kind of thing. How do I apply the principle of adjacency, and can I integrate services from the adjacent industries? So while I was working I was based out of Chennai, and our headquarters was in Bombay. And in my consulting role, I used to probably travel from Chennai to Bombay quite often. I mean, Monday to Thursday. Our Bombay office was in Nariman Point, and I used to stay at the closest Taj that was available, also in Kaffer and so on. Now, if all of this is known, and if you're able to evaluate the entire journey maps, then I can also enhance the value by providing ground transport, by taking care of your hotel accommodation, hold your car, and so on and so forth, kind of a thing. And this is what was actually captured by the likes of Make My Trip, Go Ibibo, etc., kind of a thing, right? This is an illustration of design thinking in the life sciences sector. Now, here the thing is, in terms of this is probably one of the best illustrations of design thinking. There is also several YouTube and TED Talks available on this. Do check them out. Probably the engineer Doug Dietz, he can explain it quite well, kind of a thing. So this is a story about GE Healthcare. They manufacture MRI machines kind of a thing. And one of the project that came up, and the project leader Doug Dietz was asked to do, is that to go and install the MRI machine in a pediatric hospital. So he was quite excited. He went to the pediatric hospital. He got the machine installed, and he was waiting to see how the customer's experience would be in this whole place, kind of a thing. Now, in the US concept, first of all, MRI is not advocated to young children. and even if it happens after a very long 2 or 3 week appointment time that you would get. And during this period, the parents are tense, the child is tense. They still explain to the child as to this is a whole process, this is what you need to go through, so on and so forth. And Doug first observation when he saw the family, a father, mother, and their young 10-year-old girl, for example, and he found that there was so much anxiety all over their face. The father forgot the papers in the car, the mother forgot the keys, and the daughter was even more anxious, and all of that was happening. So he was quite disappointed with the whole experience itself. And around that time, he heard about Stanford D School. He learned about design thinking, and what he came back and did is that he went and met parents of young children. He met pediatric doctors. He met the daycare people, and also the hospitals, art museums, and several places, including the children, and asked them what is it that you would like to see, what kind of a machine you would like, what is it that you would like, so on and so forth. And he got all of those information together. And what they created after that is that they converted that whole MRI process into a nice, adventure kind of a thing. If you're familiar with the MRI process, there is a long corridor, and then at the end of the corridor is where the whole mission is. And the mission also is so it's a very claustrophobic even for adults. You need to go inside, and then you need to lie still, and there's a lot of noise, etc., kind of a thing. So what they did in this particular pediatric hospital is that they converted that into a jungle safari. Like, so as soon as they enter into the corridor, the technicians, the doctor, the parents, the child, all of them were given some nice outfits like a jungle outfits or an animal outfits, etc. The whole corridor was painted like a jungle and everything. And inside, even the machine also got painted like the whole jungle atmosphere. And then actual MRI unit was probably like a cave, etc. And after several music and jungle beats, etc., the technician says that, okay, now this is where the pirates are coming now, so therefore you need to go and lay still. This is a nice hiding spot for you. It's a cave, nobody knows. It's our little secret. And then he says, okay, he tells the child to go and lie down still, kind of a thing. And then there is jungle beats, and then the MRI process is taken off. The MRI machine sounds are all muted by the external jungle sounds, like jungle drum beats, etc. And the whole process is complete, and with the child not even knowing about it, kind of a thing. And then Doug goes on to say that he probably received the best feedback when after that incident, when the child, while walking out, she told her father, saying that, "Daddy, can we come back tomorrow?" Now that's music to any engineer or any creators to sing, any marketers to say that they wanted to come back. So I mean, like I said, it's in a very short way that I kind of share the story. But do check out the YouTube video. It's very fascinating. Okay. Uh, and this is my favorite spot, like I said, design thinking and consulting in advisory services. So we develop the principles, like I said, the what of design thinking, the 5 principles, and complement on one axis, and we take the design practices, the how of design thinking, and the matrix of these principles and practices is the design grid. I mean, my innovation and my conceptual framework for my doctoral research. So what it advocates is that now any consulting assignment goes through a 5 phase process. There is an understanding the context of the drivers, to see what the current state is, to identify the target, find out the gaps, and provide solutions, kind of a thing. So we go through every phase, and we say that if I were to do a digital transformation for a university, for example. Okay, if I want to digitize or create an online, institute online program kind of thing. In the first state, what is the best suited principle? If that is a principle, what are the best suited techniques or practices that are related to the principle and are also can be applicable to my particular problem statement, kind of a thing. So that is how we start to apply those principles and practices and go from one phase to another, and we can see that how design thinking can nicely be applied even in the consulting world. Okay, from the consulting, we now move to design thinking in the corporate social responsibility, kind of a thing. Now, so this is a 5 step process. I mean, I'll talk about the framework itself. So this was an NGO. What they wanted to do is that they wanted to provide one of the corporate organization wanted to provide, as part of the CSR initiative, they contacted with an NGO, and they said, okay, we will provide piped water connections to whatever, let's say 100 villages in Andhra Pradesh, in probably Guntur or Vijayawada districts kind of a thing, right? As I said, okay, they started to identify the needs assessment as a first starting point to figure out from and use the empathy map to understand how many villages are here, how are they located, what is the demographic profile, how are the houses scattered within the layout, and so on and so forth. Through that, they define the baseline and define the statement itself to say that here is the structure of the houses, and here are the clusters, here are the isolated houses, etc. And they ideated upon how to go about implementing this particular thing. And they said, okay, why don't we do a morphological analysis? And they said, we will do these 5 villages in this district, and then so on and so forth, kind of a thing. And then they started to evaluate the outcomes to see whether they were using, etc., kind of a thing. Now, what typically had the difference and the discovery or the real value of design thinking came up in the corporate social sector when we went to the test phase, kind of a thing. Because if you look at as a corporate sector, uh, or a profit-based organizations kind of a thing, any initiative that is taken, it's a simple business case. How much did I spend? What are my returns? Has there been a gain or a loss, kind of a thing? So you just measure the intended outcomes, kind of a thing. I need to get 25% productivity. I need to get 50% market share or whatever, right? So that's the metric on which you want to measure those metrics, kind of a thing. But in a social sector like this, what is equally important is that you not only need to measure the intended outcomes in terms of, I wanted to provide water connection to 100 villages. Have I done it? I did only 75 in this quarter. In this 1 year, I dropped by 25, for example. In addition to that, you also need to monitor the unintended outcomes. Okay, now that was possible only because we were applying the principles of design thinking. What was happening in this case when the NGO went back, there were a lot of women folks still carrying their vessels and going forward, walking to the lake nearby, about walking 1 kilometer, filling the water and carrying it all the way back, kind of a thing. That was still happening, and we want there is a pipe here just 10 feet away in this cluster of houses. Why are you not using the taps or and to fill your water? And that's much more comfortable. What they discovered is that when the women go out for to get this water, that is probably that half an hour is the only time that they get for themselves. So that's the point of a time. And invariably, it's the ladies who go out for a water, getting this water. They go with their friends, their fellow friends in the neighborhood. They take their daughters, they take their mothers, mother-in-law, or their young daughters, etc., and they go out, and that is the time that they get for themselves to socialize away from the problems of the house, problems of the children, problems of the husband, or problems of the in-laws, and so on and so forth. And they did not want to let go of that time that they have for themselves. So that is an unintended outcome. So in the social sector, it is extremely important to measure the intended outcome as well as the unintended outcomes like this, and take certain course corrections. A similar example of this is that the same process. Another example of an unintended outcome is that when an NGO was providing cooking gas connections to a villages, kind of a thing. Now these villages had the thatched roofs, kind of either with hay or palm leaves, etc. And they were cooking with firewood or cow dung cakes, etc. And for all their thing, it is heavy in smoke, and there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of heat, etc., kind of a thing. Now when the cooking gas came, it is much more convenient. There's no heat, there's no smoke. But the unintended outcome and what they discovered to the dismay is that they found that suddenly all the houses roofs were falling down, kind of a thing. Now this was again good example of an unintended outcome. Now why was that happening? It was happening because earlier, because of the fire and the wood fire and the smoke, because of the heat and the smoke, it kept the termites away. Now that is gone, and now you brought in a cooking gas, and there's no heat, there's no smoke, so the termites came back, and they were eating up the entire thatched roofs, and the thatched roofs are falling down, kind of a thing. So here is another good example how design thinking can be applied in the social sector also, where the emphasis is on measuring the intended outcomes and also monitoring the unintended outcomes, which was possible only because of the design thinking way of finding solutions, kind of thing, right? So that's how we've seen how design thinking has been applied in the various sectors, kind of thing, right? various industry verticals, and there are several examples of it could be applied. We now switch and move on to how design thinking can be applied even in the education sector. So before that, just wanted to share this five-step process or framework. This is the original Stanford Design School framework, and most of the other frameworks that came after this are very similar to it. There's a framework from IBM, IDEO, Double Diamond framework. There's a framework from Roger Martin at from the Rotman School of Management. He calls it as a knowledge funnel on design thinking for business. But most of them pretty much adopt a similar model that we have seen here. It's all about taking through these five steps kind of a thing. So it starts the D School framework advocates. You start with the empathize phase. It's all about understanding what your customers' needs are and what is important for them. From that, you get a several data, information, insights, and define the next phase is define. It's all about converting these insights into meaningful requirements or a meaningful problem statement. Once we have that, we move on to the ideate phase, wherein it is all about ideating and brainstorming, co-creating different solutions. Once you have a solution, you start to prototype the solution and to see how we can test out that particular solution as a pilot project or so on and so forth. And after it is prototyped, if you have a reasonably good solution, you take it to the market and test it out with your real customers kind of thing, right? So it's a simple five-step process that we go through this particular, design D-School framework. What you would also notice in the graphic is that there are backward loops going from any particular state to the previous or or even the first state kind of a thing. So design thinking, like I said earlier, it advocates failing fast. It's an agile model kind of a thing. So if, at any given point of a time, if you think that don't have a better problem, I need to interview some more customers, fine, let's go back. Or if you created a prototypes and you think that the prototype solutions are failing, can I go back and ideate and get better solutions? Or when you tested out the product, you found that there are wrong solutions, like the toothbrush example that we spoke about, which means that I need to go all the way back to my empathize phase and restart all over again, right? So this is all about how the design thinking framework or the Stanford's D School framework works kind of thing. Now, if I take this framework, sorry, okay, let's take, by the way, in the design thinking parlance, every problem is called as a wicked problems because we want to solve unmet needs and we want to talk about problems where the problem is not clear and the solution also is equally not clear kind of. It's we operate upon an unknown space kind of a thing, right? So if I were to take, for the purpose of our illustration, if this is a problem that you're trying to target, how do we reimagine teaching to reignite learning, for example? Now, a simple how might we statements is that could be several things. It might say that how might we increase faculty interaction with students, or how might we teach from first principles, how might we make students more employable, how might we prepare students for the future of work, work from home, hybrid models, etc. How might we develop the communication and the creative skills of the students, or how might we foster collaboration, co-creation, etc. And or maybe we can have a you can have a, even a problem statement like how might we nurture climate consciousness in our youngsters in the academic world itself before they reach out into the corporate or the real world kind of a thing. So this is a certain broader problem statement that we are taking, and some of the how might we statements are listed here. So just keep these factors in mind, and as I walk you through the Stanford D School framework, and as we see as to how design thinking gets applied in various phases, how we select a principle, how we select a practices, and what are the results that we get out of this at every stage kind of a thing, right? So we start with the empathize phase, like I said, it's all about understanding who we are designing for and what is important to them. You might have the best of the solution, you might have the best of the ideas kind of a thing, but you cannot push that particular thing, but you still need to operate upon what is important for your end customers. I mean, here the objective is more in terms of trying to understand what are their concerns, their joys, their fears, their needs, their dreams, etc. What is their brand with their intersect with their emotions kind of a thing, and will this product help them to empower our customers and ease their emotions, for example. Like, it's all about taking care of all the solutions kind of a thing. There are a lot of explicit needs kind of a thing, and we want to convert all the data into deep insights kind of a thing. That's the overarching objective of the empathize phase. Now, that being the case, like I said, so I might start with human-centered design as a most suited example because I want to use that principle to understand what is really important for my customers. And some of the practices that might be good in this context is that, for example, I want to draw an empathy map. I want to look at user personas, try to figure out what my different personas are. I probably would be using interviewing techniques. I also might use something what is called as a stakeholder maps kind of a thing, right? So that's how we these are the practices that I've selected for myself kind of a thing. So I start with the stakeholder map. So every time we talk about reimagining teaching or creating a new course or things like that, what in the academic world, the intuitively the stakeholder that we typically think about is probably only the first two. We only talk about faculties and students kind of a thing, right? So there is a faculty or a dean of academic affairs or the principal. We might come together and say, okay, look, I want to introduce a course on AI, and this is how the course will be structured. These are the kind of students that are applicable that they might want to get to it, kind of a thing. But what design thinking advocates is that it asks us to look for more stakeholders. Like, how many times have faculty and engineering colleges found that when the placement time comes up, they started to realize the corporates and the placement becomes difficult. And if you ask for the executives, the hiring executives, invariably they say that, sir, your students are good academically, but they are not employable, kind of a thing. So therefore, what if I take this data point and bring the corporate people also as one of the stakeholders to identify, to help us in reimagining teaching or reigniting learning, kind of a thing. Or sometimes, most of the, because of the fee structures or because of people who come from the economically backward classes or the rural areas, for example, the family also is an equally important stakeholder. Like, so they might have their own set of aspirations, own set of financial constraints, kind of a thing. They might have own set of ambitions in terms of where they want their, son or daughter to work, or day shifts or IT firms, or close to home, close to their hometown, not in the metros, etc. So the family also becomes an equally important stakeholder, kind of a thing. So this is how design thinking advocates us to look at stakeholders beyond what we conventionally know as our the stakeholders itself, kind of a thing, right? Now, once I know the top set of stakeholders, I then start to look for the different personas that exist, kind of a thing. By personas, I mean when you talk about a faculty, it is the faculty can be two roles. For example, it could be a simple teacher. I mean, when he comes in, when your faculty comes to the class, it could be a simple example of a teacher itself. But maybe when he's designing the course or when he's organizing the placement or the interacting with the industry, he takes on the role of a management itself, kind of a thing. So those are the two different personas that the stakeholder faculty can take. So the student, for example, he's a student within the class premises, but once outside at home, once outside the classroom, he becomes a friend or a son or a daughter, etc. Corporates, it could be the organization as a whole. They might have a different perspective as an organization when I wear the organization's hat, or I might have a different perspective if I work as a manager. If I'm hiring someone for to work with me, then I might look at certain things that I want the student to learn. But if I'm hiring if I take the persona of a manager or of an employer or for the organization, I might have different criteria. We want to make sure that there are background checks that are done. Want to make sure that he's going to has a good professional work ethic and a work ethic etiquette, kind of a thing. So those are the things that I might take. Family, it's again more in terms of the father or a mother or another persona could be they become the financier of the college education, kind of a thing. So slowly you're starting to understand the distinction between a stakeholder and a persona, kind of a thing. So I have a set of stakeholders, I have a set of personas, kind of a thing. Now, for all of them, I draw the empathy map. What the empathy map then says is that it starts with the first phase in terms of who are we stakeholders in terms of the faculty, the student, and the corporates and this thing like that. Now, each one of them, what is it that they need to do, kind of a thing. Okay, the teachers need to educate them, the students need to study, the corporates needs to hire them, and the family encourages them. But typically what is happening in this particular thing is that the teachers are only teaching what is given as per the syllabus, kind of a thing. The students are, instead of learning, they are probably just attending classes, kind of thing. Corporates, maybe they're just avoiding this institute because they're not employable or they don't get the day one kind of thing. Probably parents are just paying the fees and leaving it to the student or the son or the daughter to figure out how you want to do what you want to do. It's your future, your headache kind of a thing. So that's the second part that it is there. And the third angle is in terms of what do they need to do, what they must be, what do they say, etc. kind of thing. So here there are a lot of for example, the faculty invariably say that the students are very uninterested, or if you ask the student, they might say that the classes are very uninteresting. Corporates might say that the students are unemployable. Family might say that the college fees is quite expensive, kind of a thing. Okay, and if you say look at it from what are they seeing actually live happening, then the faculty says that the students are coming only for attendance. The student might say that okay, the classes are very monotonous, kind of a thing. And corporates might say that this is an institute that is focused more upon compliance to the regulations as opposed to teaching or innovating the child, kind of a thing. Anyway, so it's hard to absorb all of these different challenges. But what I want to suffice and say that through the empathy map, we are able to we looked at different stakeholders, we looked at different personas, and for every persona, we are hearing their voice in terms of what is it that I need to do, what is it that I'm actually doing, and what are the pains that I have, and what are the gains that I'm trying to look for, kind of a thing. So that's the overall perspective that we do as part of the empathize phase. From the empathize phase, we move on to the design define phase. And the define phase objective is all in terms of summarizing the outcomes or the insights from the empathize state into meaningful user requirements, kind of a thing. We're trying to really understand what is the real problem here and why is it a problem. Okay, why are the classes uninteresting? Why is the teaching difficult? Or why are the students not employable, kind of a thing? Okay, and we want, and where does the problem lie? Who has the need? Who has a problem? And how is it being solved today, if at all it is being solved? Like, so those are the questions that we ask ourselves in the define phase. And for this, the principle that we choose is embracing ambiguity and diversity as a principle. And by the way, if you think that the principles are coming in a sequential order, that is not intentional. It is only a sequence that I've taken just to, it makes learning easier. So whenever I introduce design thinking to anybody in the first instance, I typically follow the sequence and try to cover it from that context. But it is not to say that embracing ambiguity is something that I would apply only in the defined phase. It can be applicable in any other phases also. For example, if I want to look at new technologies or solve some kind of a AI data center problem or a quantum computing, that's so ambiguous, kind of a thing. So I might even use that principle in the empathize phase itself. Anyway, so here we use this principle, and against this principle, I've taken a couple of practices. Let's say we use how might we use the journey maps, and we also use the innovation trifecta and a point of view, for example. And let's see how we can put that together. So the we looked at the innovation trifecta. This is all about desirability, feasibility, and viability. So in the desirability part of it, if you ask the faculty say that I need students who are eager to learn, kind of a thing. Then I can teach better. I can be much more proactive. I can give them part a lot of knowledge, kind of a thing. If you ask the student, his desirability is more in terms of getting a good job. Okay, that is all. If you ask a corporate, he'll say that I don't know what skills that you have, but more important, I can teach you the skills, but I want to make sure that you are employable, kind of a thing. But if you talk to the parents, they might say that, okay, look, it doesn't matter which company is working, which industry, where, which city, etc. But I want to make sure that he gets a good salary and he's comfortable, kind of thing. So these are the desirability factors, right? And the feasibility is more in terms of how do you make all of this happen by taking care of your funding, etc., ability to attract the corporates on day one for placement, ability to get sponsorships, etc. And to do all of this, the viability part is, can I get the right return on investment? Because there is a lot of funding that you have to get from the parent institutions or from the board or from the government sector, kind of a thing. So this is how a quick, innovation trifecta could be plotted. And the next thing that we do is that we try to get the points of view. We use the points of view because it helps. It is not important to capture just the need, but we want to understand the deeper insight in terms of why is someone saying what they are saying. For example, if you look at the faculty itself, the faculty's needs are, they say that, look, I want good students and I want management support. That is all that he's asking for. Like, Okay. But then he's also discovered that the students are not listening, not paying attention because their primary education, and this happens a lot of us in engineering also, is that a lot of students had their schooling and even plus two in the schooling has been in the local language. And only when they come to the degree in an engineering college, for example, now they suddenly they have to absorb and learn everything with English language as a medium. Now that is a very powerful insight that will help you in a lot of the solutions kind of a thing. Okay. If you ask the student said that, look, I want to get a good job. That is my only motive. Now, as a faculty member, I might say that money is not everything, job is not everything. You need to learn. Learning is much more powerful. But the actual insight is that maybe he also wants to contribute financially to the family. They might have taken a loan, education loan, to fund their children's education, and he wants to make sure that he gets a good job to take help the family financially, kind of a thing. If you ask the corporates, they're saying that, look, I'm not able to get readily employable students. And if you dig deeper, the real insight is more in terms of, like I said, the focus in this institute seems to be more upon compliance to the regulations and adherence to the regulation as opposed to making the students employable, kind of a thing. Now the family might say that, okay, this is, look, we are looking for financial support, but that is again, like I said, maybe because the family had taken education loans, or they want some kind of help in the EMIs, taking care of the EMIs. So these are the powerful insights that you would get in the define phase. The define phase helped us to take all the insights from the empathize phase, and we culled it into a meaningful requirement with a lot of insights. Now we go about identifying a lot of requirements and try to see how we can ideate different solutions, kind of a thing. So in the ideate phase, it's all about exploring various solution options and generate as many as possible unique ideas. Like, this is in design thinking mostly, and specifically in ideate phase, it is probably the only place where quantity rules over quality, kind of a thing. The more ideas I get, the more better, kind of a thing. And another good principle of design thinking is that no idea is a bad idea. You don't shoot down any particular idea. We capture any idea that comes and wherever it comes from. It's a closed collaborative model. We work as a round table. Once we come to the design thinking space, we all work as equals, kind of a thing. And our hierarchies, our roles, everything is forgotten, and we work as five individuals trying to solve a specific problem, kind of a thing. Now, in the ideate phase, it's a good point of time to use openness to radical collaboration as a tool, as a principle, and the practices. I probably would have to rush a bit. We are running short of time also. As practices, we have how might we, brainstorming and affinity diagrams and morphological analysis. Probably six things. There are several tools that are available as far as the ideation phase is concerned. So in the ideate phase, the blue and orange, we've taken it as an example of the stakeholders and the personas, kind of a thing. So I mean, like I said, uninteresting students, monotonous students. Some people are interested in only attendance. We have the people who are coming from the low income group. There is a lack of management support. There is a lack of research. There's a lack of collaboration. And how do we address all of this, kind of a thing? Focus on compliance. So these are all the different brainstorming thoughts and ideas that might come up from the different stakeholders, different personas that they would wear, kind of a thing. That's the haphazard way of ideas. Then we can use the six thinking hats to capture those ideas along the six thinking hats. I mean, six thinking hats as a tool, all it says that rather than discussing all the subjects at the same point of time, six thinking hats says that you look at the problem one for the first 5 minutes. Let's use only talk about the positives. For the next half minute, let's talk about the negatives, kind of a thing. So, and each idea, it has a colored hat. For example, the white hat is all about data and facts. We've discovered that this batch, is predominantly coming from the low income group. The black hat is about difficulties. The difficulties that there are student loans. The red hat is all about capturing the feelings. It's uninteresting classes, kind of a thing. Creativity is a green hat, kind of a thing. When classes are uninteresting, but we are very creative as in terms of the way we can get attendance and crack our attendance and make sure that we clear the attendance, benchmark or the baseline itself, kind of thing. Yellow hat is all about values, kind of a thing. We want to make sure that we are hardworking. The blue hat is a moderator, kind of a thing. It could be a teacher or a parent who moderates the overall discussions, kind of a thing. So this is another technique that you could use to figure out how you would want to run your brainstorming session. The third technique is in terms of morphological analysis. Now, morphological analysis, like I said, it's all about aggregating, breaking down the problem into different things. For example, I can look at it from a faculty versus student point of view, kind of thing. So if you look at the faculty, you say that the students might say the teaching pattern is pretty much a routine pattern. The professor has got limited publications. The professor also is looking for his growth path within the within the university, from one layer to from assistant professor to associate, or a director or a dean, etc. He's more interested in the compliance to the industry, the institute rules, etc., kind of a thing. Now, if I were to take the student, then you might say that the students, the learning aptitude is low, they have language constraints, but then their career aspirations are very high, but then they are mostly institute driven, and the family background is coming from the low income group. So this kind of a 2 by 2 grouping also can help us a lot. Now, you could also develop a same grid from faculty versus corporate, or a student versus corporate, and you will get different ideas and different insights, kind of, right? And then you can take all the ideas together, like from the morphological analysis, and you can articulate a simple how might we statement, and then you can group these ideas together. So suppose one of our how might we statement is that how might we make our classes more interesting, like, okay, so someone came with an idea, okay, what if we send our faculty for faculty development programs? What if we engage there was an idea around what if the faculty gets engaged and interacts with the industry through consulting assignments, kind of a thing. There is another idea in terms of how do we make the teaching much more practical, for example, with a lot of case studies or project work, kind of a thing. Or there was also one idea which came in one institute in terms of most of the classes, yeah, are rows of seats and arrangements, kind of a thing, or a gallery arrangements, kind of thing. What one school tried in Kerala apparently is that they converted that into semicircular teaching, so that the teacher can look at all the students in one go, and there is no front bencher or a back bencher, kind of a thing. So this is how might we an affinity diagram might help us to group certain ideas. The second box on the right side you see is that how might we make students more employable, for example. Okay, so making students more employable, there's an idea in terms of how do we develop communication skills, how do we develop soft skills, for example. Okay, or can we invite industry or faculty experts to come and talk to us in terms of what are the real life skills, kind of a thing. So here is another example as to how the ideation principles, how we have used different tools to bring all that together. Okay, after the ideate phase, we now move to the prototyping phase, and the objective of the prototyping phase is to bringing the user close to the final product by giving it something like a real life feel, kind of a thing, right? So we can test out these prototyping ideas by gathering feedback or scenarios like that. Or in such services, unlike a physical product, you can go talk to different people and get those different they get their feedback on those certain situations, kind of a thing. So the principle here is co-creating impactful solutions, and the practices are, there's a very powerful tool called feedback capture grid. Like, let me just quickly go to the tool. Okay, so the feedback capture grid, all it does is that you talk to a different set of people and you ask them, okay, here is a solution that I'm thinking about. What is it that you like in the solution? What are the questions that you would have? What are the ideas that you have to improvise on the solution? Or what are your wish list itself, kind of a thing. So if I were to like I like part of it, the feedback said that, okay, I'm glad that you increase the stakeholders from faculty and student, and you also brought in the corporate and the corporate and the family together. I wish your wish list is, I wish the management is more open to new ideas, kind of a thing. Okay, or the questions that we have is that what if you there's a question that came up, can you also consider alumni as your stakeholder? Like, so for example, when your final year students pass out, they join a company, for example. What if that student, when he goes through the first 1 year of working of his 1 year's experience, he's a friend, he's a senior, all of you all know him well. Like, what if you include the alumni and he can then come back, and he or she can come back and share his experiences. This is what I learned, these are the challenges that I have. Communication skills are extremely important. The way I dress, the way I maintain my time is also extremely important. Now, these are extremely good inputs that an alumni can give, kind of a thing. So that's a very powerful suggestion that came. Or for example, one of the ideas that came is that what if you explore best practices from other engineering colleges? So, for example, some of the major IT firms, what they do is that in the third year itself, So if they want to hire cybersecurity or AI experts, they are actually sponsoring a course in the third year. They select shortly certain students. They allow them to learn the student, take this particular course, and that course is taught the way this organization would look at AI, for example, with all the academic inputs. And then once he clears the final exam, and once he also has to clear the exit test and all, so he gets a placement kind of a thing. Now what is happening in this process is that it's a win-win situation. The student learns a new subject. The student is assured of a reasonable hope of getting, he's almost 50% there in terms of getting a job. And from the company's point of view, if they were to if they were to hire a regular student, he goes through 1 month of general training. He goes through 3 months of AI specific training, let's say. But now by sponsoring this particular course, the student already is familiar with AI, the way the company would look at AI. So instead of waiting for 4 months of training and becoming billable, within 1 month after the basic training, he can become billable kind of a thing. So that's a wonderful idea that popped up, and that came up as part of the feedback capture grid. Okay. The last phase is the taking the product or the solution to the thing, and here it is all the objective here is to test it out with the end users itself. Right? So the principle here is that implementing and iteratively improvising upon the solutions itself, and the tools that we use are affinity diagrams and the value proposition canvas. Right? So what I said is that from the affinity diagrams, we looked at how might we make the classes more interesting itself, like. So putting the original ideas together, and from the feedback, one of the actions that they said they'll take is that we're going to invite alumni for experience sharing, like. So if it's your own alumni, and if he comes and gives feedback, there is already a lot of relationship and a lot of trust that has been built up, and he or she will give some honest feedback kind of a thing. The second thing that they discovered through this is that the one more good principle is that to make employees employable is that to get management to sponsor certain courses. So through all of these actions, what has happened is that now the teaching has got reimagined because the faculty has now got more exposure to the real world through industry engagement, through faculty development programs. The learning got reignited because there is a practical way of teaching. There is an emphasis on communication skills, and insights from alumni are brought in, and there is a reasonable assurance of a job security kind of a thing. So both the aspects of reimagining teaching and reigniting learning have been met through this particular exercise. And then, like I said in the value proposition canvas, the last test of the tool is in this value proposition canvas. So we started by saying that our problem is in terms of inattentive students and routine teaching methods. So what we got through that is that we created some practical teaching. We have introduced the we made the students ready for the future of work kind of a thing. We introduced a pain reliever by management funding for soft skills. We did a gain creator by getting corporate funding for their sponsored courses kind of a thing. So that is how it wraps back to their original problem statement, and how both of this have been met together kind of a thing. So this is I hope it's become clear. But this is actually what you've seen in the like I said, last 20 minutes is actually 2 days, the output of a 2 days of workshop and a brainstorming sessions. And these are some of the sessions that, like what sir mentioned earlier, is when we run these workshops, we can take a problem that is closer to your college or your discipline or your region or your student demographics, and work on similar problems. And I just use this illustration to show that design thinking can also be applied in the consulting world itself, in the education space also. And my last slide here is that what's the future of design thinking, right? So like I said earlier, when we started, we looked at it was all about a products or a pre-design thinking space. It is all about a product or a features-based design kind of a thing. I want to create a new product. It should have 1, 2, 3 features kind of a thing, and that's good enough for me. And design thinking brought in the element of human-centered design, and it brought in the people aspect of it. It's not just the product. What is equally important is your customers, the people, and we want to make sure that you provide human-centric solutions kind of a thing. And the future of design thinking lies not so much in product and people, but we also need to bring in the planet element of it. And that is where Don Norman once again converted the human-centered design element to now what we call as a humanity-centered design, wherein you take care of the product, the people, and also the planet. Now, if I go back to the same toothbrush example, so what we created the toothbrush with with a thicker handle and a bristles kind of a thing, it still helps from a people-centered point, but plastic is the most non-biodegradable waste kind of a thing, and it's not eco-friendly at all. So if I want to extend my human-centered design in the toothbrush example to humanity-centered design, what if I make the same plastic toothbrush with bamboo or any other high biodegradable material kind of a thing? Now, if I was able to do that, then yes, I'll be able to. It would be a truly a humanity-centered design, and I would be taking care of the product, people, and the planet. You could also check out my TED talk on Think Humanity, Think Design, wherein I spoke about how this has been expanded and how design thinking can be applied in the ESG sector also. So with that, I come to the conclusion. There's a bunch of books that are here, and yes, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover, and the floor is open for questions. It's a long session. I hope it's been interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. It's really a wonderful session. Now I may request one by one, please raise your hand. You can interact with the today's resource person on various issues. Otherwise, you can also text in the chat box.
Uh, there are two participants who have raised their hands. You can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, please.
Sir, are they all muted? Or
They are muted by sir, but whenever they raise hand, we can unmute them.
okay,
Otherwise, it is a bit messy.
I
Everybody.
think I've unmuted all also. Yeah, so you can unmute yourself now. I think earlier it was muted by me. You can unmute yourself and
You can unmute yourself. No.
No, sir.
Yeah, please. Harita madam, please.
please go ahead and
Please, you can unmute.
Hello, sir.
yes, please.
Yeah, please, sir. Ganesh Karmatar.
I'm Dr. Ganesh calling from, I'm speaking from Ajinkaya University, Pune, sir. I'm very much
Yes.
happy to listen to your session, sir. You have given a lot of insights. Sir, my question is that in terms of these generative AI platforms that are coming up now, how is the design thinking going to change its future present, sir?
Right. So, with all the advent of AI and everything, and the automation and all the feasibility that is possible, so design thinking is probably large version available for the creative part of it. Now, in you there's a lot of information available to you, kind of a thing, right? And what the extractions of AI tools is also on a pre-existing information. So what we have is data. Information or data is what is available. Now, if you were to apply the principles of design thinking, what it could complement with that is the insight that you can get from it. So one of the example is that in the COVID time, we all went into work from home mode, and post COVID, most organizations were trying to get us back to work, back to work or return to work kind of a model, or work from office, or hybrid models kind of a thing. Now, if and then it was not as effective, and it was in a way a little bit of a nightmare for the HR personnel, because many people were not coming back, kind of a thing. Now, in that context, if I were to use any of these tools, it can give me information in terms of which location, which center, how many employees have come, how many employees have clocked their data, attendance, biometrics, etc. All of this is available. It is still an information or a data point kind of a thing, and that is not going to help me to provide a right solution. I know that five staff did not come to work today, or for in the entire month, their office attendance was only 10% kind of a thing. But it doesn't give me any information, insight in terms of why is it that they haven't come, for example. So I used to have a team of two, and my workplace is close by. I mean, though we work in the consulting space, we don't have large teams. We pretty much work either with the client side or we work with. It's always on phone calls. Kind of most of our work happens on phone or webinars, WebEx kind of a thing, or client in-person client meetings. So it wasn't a problem for me to go to work and come back. Okay, but let's say there's a colleague of mine who was based in Hyderabad, and he had a very long commute. Now he says that he said, why aren't you coming to office to work? And he says, look, it's a 1 hour commute for me from going from work home to work, and then again 1 hour. Even if I go to office, I'm still on a phone call and talking to the customer or talking to I can actually save 2 hours and work those 2 hours if I were to work from home, because it is only a phone call. I don't have a physical dependency. Now, that is the reason that he's quoting as far as not coming to work or working from office. He's working, but he prefers to work from home. There's another colleague who's based in Lucknow, a much younger colleague kind of a thing. Now, during the COVID time, the schools also have converted to online teaching, online classes, etc. And he's got two young children. So he says that, okay, look, for me, the problem is double. One, the commute is very high for me also. Secondly, because we have this computer or laptop that we use, or the Wi-Fi that we use, everything put together, I be helping my children with their online classes, etc. Now, if I have to switch that, I'm yet to move them to a physical class. So until then, they are still in the online classes, but I need to move to a physical class. So until then, I need permission to work from home. Now, what is happening is that from the simple information or a data point in terms of two of my team members are not coming to work, are not working from office, but only by the way we look at from a design thinking hat, we will be able to understand what is it that they're not coming. So with these two reasons, I can change my solution to say that, okay, look, I'll allow you to come. That's how we created the hybrid model. Said, okay, not 5 days, but please come to work at 2 days. Environment, right? So that is how design thinking helps us to look at alternative solutions, so that alternative feasible solution that could become a win-win solution for all kind of a thing. It doesn't change the solution per se, but it gives you new way of thinking.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Any more questions? Anybody? Please restrain your students. They are making some noise. I request all the faculty members. Please don't give mic to them. Any student can also interact, but please, it should be very genuine and very innovative question. Any other resource persons? Any other faculty members or students? You can unmute yourself and can interact with the resource person today.
Sir, good morning.
Yes, please go ahead, sir. మాట్లాడండి సార్. మూర్తి గారు మాట్లాడండి. మూర్తి గారు మాట్లాడండి. Dr. GSN Murthy garu, please speak. సార్ మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకుని మాట్లాడొచ్చు. చింటూబాయ్ మాట్లాడు. You want to interact? Chintubai, if you want to interact, please interact. Murthy garu. Some Paida college everandi, Paida college రైట్ చేశారు. You can speak. ప్లీజ్ కుప్పం ఇంజనీరింగ్ కాలేజ్ మాట్లాడండి. కుప్పం ఇంజనీరింగ్ కాలేజ్ యూ కెన్ స్పీక్. అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి మైక్. సార్ మైక్ అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి మీరు. ఆడియో లేదు.
మైక్ ఆన్ చేసుకుంటారులే.
యా యూ కెన్ స్పీక్ నౌ. ధనుష్ భూపతి గారు మాట్లాడొచ్చు మీరు. వి భూపతి. కుప్పం ఇంజనీరింగ్ కాలేజ్ మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ అయ్యారండి, మాట్లాడొచ్చు. మీరు మైక్ అన్మ్యూట్ చేసి మాట్లాడండి.
Excuse me,
యా ప్లీజ్.
sir. How this design thinking approach can influence the field of robotics?
మీరు అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి సార్, మీది వాయిస్ రావాలి.
Right. Yeah. So what I say is that design thinking is the most applicable part as far as the physical products are concerned, kind of a thing, right? So if you look, when you talked about, you were asking about around the robotics itself. So you are trying to build a lot of features around it, and then every feature that you would want to create, how can I get alternative solutions, kind of a thing. You try, if you want to look at the hand movement, for example, what is the best way to get those hand movements and to look at the scenarios, kind of a thing. One of the things I think this was an example of a bottle opener. If you look at some of the overseas bottles, they have a removable cap, kind of a thing. And what they discovered, especially, is that most of the bottles and the removable cap are suited only for right-hand people, because you hold the bottle with your right hand and you can open the cap, kind of a thing. Then the question came up in terms of how does it work if it's for a left-handed person. It becomes very difficult for a left-handed person to open the same bottle, kind of a thing. So these are some of the small nuances that again, like I said, once you are familiar with the design thinking principles, and if you want to extend yourself to finding various solutions or alternative solutions, so that is when it will help us to figure out this these smaller nuances. The other example that I can think about is that maybe not exactly a robotic space, but let's say if you look at our face recognition tools that are there in the airports, even our DigiYatra app, one new spec got changed recently or has to be worked upon, is that when we pass through the security, or when we're entering the security check, there's a face recognition and you need to go through that. Apparently, recently in one airport, there were twins traveling. Now, and they were so similar. So after the first person moved on, it recognized the face and it allowed the first person to move ahead. And when the second person came, it was kind of not allowing, because someone else with a similar face recognition pattern has already gone through that queue, kind of a thing. So that was like a totally extreme use case, which again, that's also another area in which design thinking works best, wherein you have to working on the extremes, kind of a thing. So it's all about finding new product features, testing out a certain product. Again, since it's a physical product, you can create a prototype and go and put it onto the field, make somebody use it, and then see how it can work or not work, etc., kind of a thing. So product space, it's a great avenue for design thinking to be applied. Kind of.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
yes, sir. Shankar Gar, please.
Sir.
Shankar Gar, please.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This is Professor M.V. Shankar from Yogyakarta University, Kadapa. At present, I am here in Seoul, Korea for research work. Your
Okay.
talk really exciting, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Sir, in this, it's really recently I am much interested towards the design thinking approach. Basically, we are a material scientist. We are working on nanomaterials for energy solutions, hydrogen production, like that.
Okay.
So this actually our work is more towards multiple variables involved in our research work. But most of the time, our researchers, we are doing on one variable at a time, this concept. So I'm interested towards working on this particular topic here. Probably important training is needed to the researchers in this field, so that their work can be really visualized for the industry scale after some
Right.
time, or
Right.
really the well-renowned materials can be developed, sir. So the traditional Edisonian approach only we are working mostly. So could you please comment on it, how we can go forward in this direction?
Right.
Thank you very
Right.
much, sir.
Right. No, it's a wonderful question, and I appreciate the research work that you're doing. So here's the thing. All of us, we do not know every subject. We're not experts in every area. Like all researchers, we have our own set of specializations, and therefore, if when and it is not the researcher's fault or a limitation. I'm an expert in this particular material, so therefore I can provide solutions around that, and I want to make sure that this solution fits together, kind of. So that's our general tendency. Now, like I said, design thinking advocates, collaboration and co-creation. Like, suppose if you were to bring these researchers together and we share our ideas in terms of, okay, here is a particular material, here is a function of it, and this is what, if you introduce this material or if you create a certain part based upon this particular thing, it could help, kind of a thing. And someone else might say that, okay, by the way, I'm an expert in another related material or an adjacent material with the same features or the parameters. So we can say that, okay, look, I can strengthen your case by adding this material or by adding this particular. Or you might say that, look, your solution will work, but it will not work if it is in combination with this other chemical or other material with their features, kind of a thing. So collectively, so rather than us giving out individual solutions and in the end bringing it all together, integrating it all together, and when we take it to the field, it might fail. But what if we were to collaborate upfront, and you're actually able to take care of all the, the what do you call, the all the key use cases, the adjacent use cases, the aggregation use cases, etc., and we can bring in a collective story together. See, that element of collaboration and trust in each other is something that will create. And by the way, though I did not mention earlier, is that in all of this that we do, I gave you examples only from the industry, social sector, economic and consulting or education. But once we learn the design thinking practices, invariably, and I've seen this with the feedback from all the students, is that
Yes, sir.
we start to apply this in our day-to-day life also. It becomes ingrained part of your natural way of thinking, to say that even for personal problems, simple home problems also, we start to applying things. We start to collaborate, we start to value the other person's views, we start to take care of all of this. So back to your example, sir, the whole element of getting subject matter experts, bringing them together and testing out and taking care of the fail fast scenario is something that the design thinking can help you in. Because fundamentally, we're all inherent, I mean, that's how naturally we are. We fear failure, we think failure is a mistake and we'll be pulled up for it, kind of a thing. But we need to come out of that, kind of thing. I mean, today's organizations recognize failures itself, kind of a thing. I mean, Google or any other places, they don't admonish anybody for any kind of a failure. In fact, they advocate or encourage failure, so to the extent that you're actually trying out something new.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's really interesting, sir, your information. I like to emphasize that we have a collaboration with the similar topics, sir. We are collaborating with IITs, NITs, CSR Institute on the complementary skills on science and engineering, not on design thinking, sir. That's one difficulty. Anyway, with your talk, we get more inspiration, sir. We'll try to find somebody who is working design thinking for the science and material science people or engineering. Definitely,
Yeah,
sir.
absolutely. My pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much,
Sir,
sir. Thanks to our APSCHE also for making a
sir,
wonderful
yeah, Professor
attempts.
Shankarji,
Thank you very much.
Shankar Garu, maybe you are in SEO. It's really inspiration to all our students who are watching here. Such a senior professor interacting with the today's resource person on design thinking. He's already in the research, but he want to connect with this design thinking. Sir, we will invite you for the physical session. We are shortly going to have a physical session with Dr. Mohan Garu. We will invite you definitely. And sir, in recent recent meeting with the vice chancellors, state vice chancellors, our honorable HRD Minister Garu, Sri Lokesh Garu, mentioned that every university should create one center of excellence. So based on the resources available and the based on the industries coming up at every districts. So maybe from Yogi Berman University, you might have proposed some center of excellence. Maybe your research also can be integrated as you are talking about the collaborative research. Even Government of India promoting Anusandhan scheme. So definitely it will be very useful, particularly for the students who are watching here. And we can work together, sir, in collaboration with the APSCHE also.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah. Any other participant? Would you like to interact?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. We are from
Please,
TVR and Dr. H.S. Smith College of Technology. In the last slide, you told about whatever the idea or project we are generating should be humanity-centered design. If we were planning to build a AI project, there is a chance of replacing the jobs of humans. So, will you please suggest us something about this?
Right. So, I mean, again, so one quick thing is that if you were to learn design thinking, it's probably one of the bastions of a creative thinking part of it. So that way, upskilling yourself and cross skilling is some basic inherent of everything that happens, kind of a thing. Like I said, where the distinction from an AI to a human or a PM. So the difference is more in terms of the creative elements, more in terms of the experience that you would bring onto the table, kind of a thing. Okay, so if to reserving the jobs itself is in terms of finding solutions, like I said, for me, AI as it stands today with the generative AI, we're not getting into the agentic AI part of it, but as it stands today, it is a function of what is available, and it's an extraction with time and speed, and probably putting it back together in a nice coherent way for us, kind of a thing. But it is still information and data, and what humans can still add to it is the underlying insight around everything that we do, for example. Okay, and if you have to understand the get more, how I would be able to get more insights is in terms of applying these principles and practices that we spoke about, and trying to visualize every problem in terms of how it can be put together. So as students, it's like I said, how do we collaborate with each other? Like collectively, we can win more, we can do more, kind of a thing. So, I mean, again, I think in my first book on consulting, I talk about a lot of soft skills, and it's all about your what will really stand out for you in the job market is your ability to be a team player and your aptitude to learn, kind of a thing. These are the two rules that you would have to remember always, and it doesn't matter whether you are a trainee or whether you are an MD, kind of a thing. Our sustenance will always be a function of these two things, or the things like you need to observe and absorb everything that is around, sharing to succeed, etc. So therefore, there are a lot of such principles that are there for us, which we can imbibe to make ourselves, be more relevant, kind of thing, right? So as we learn more, we will grow more, and we will gain new skills. We'll upskill ourselves, and we will constantly keep learning, and that will keep us relevant in any organization, kind of a thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for clearing your doubts.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hello, sir.
Muhammad Shafiullah Garu, please.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. This
Good
is
afternoon.
Muhammad Shafullah from SPC College, Kadapa, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, actually, here I need to give me a brief idea regarding to the importance of design thinking in interviews and placements, sir.
Right. So the example that we spoke about is in terms of, see, one of the common feedback, it doesn't matter which institute, every institute, even IITs also still get the same feedback in terms of in terms of skill versus employability, kind of a thing. See, what's going to happen in the education sector is that, I know a lot of participants have raised a question about the advent of AI and the challenges around it. is in terms of the subject matter expertise can always be gained kind of a thing. If not by us, by anybody else, or if you don't have any other source, I can still get it from ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whatever your flavor is. But the skills are where the difference lies kind of a thing. So any skill that will developing the skills is where it can help you with respect to the placement part of it. I mean, even in our own illustration, we spoke about the communication skills, the soft skills itself, like, or how do you make them employable kind of a thing. See, what happens in most of the IT firms when we get onto it, like I said, a lot of us conversational English speaking also is a little bit of a challenge. What if we do some evening lectures around it, improvise some kind of thing, or what if you introduce some kind of public speaking sessions, bring some people, make them listen to some nice TED talks or something like that. I remember in our old school days we had elocution competitions and debating competitions. Or if you were to, like I said, a very good example is to get your own alumni kind of a thing, because I've gone on to the workplace and moved on kind of a thing. Even a simple thing like, I mean, today it's very difficult. Even a simple thing like most of us managers or most organizations would like to see discipline kind of a thing. Okay, the fact that 9 to 5 is my working hours is I'm paying for those 9 to 5, 5 days a week or 5.5 days a week kind of a thing. So that is the time, that is my time kind of a thing. I want to make sure that you are physically present in office, you clock it kind of a thing. Now, I mean, as students, an alternative thought is in terms of how should the timing matter. As long as I give you the output and the work, that should suffice kind of a thing. But there is much more to it. Or why should I only come to office? If you go to the office, as you observe your seniors, as you observe your peers, there is a lot that you can learn from those experiences kind of a thing, lot from those interactions. Like, I mean, I started to read kind of a thing. When I joined my workplace, I found my the head of the branch and who retired as a CFO. He was always carrying 2 books with him, like physical books that he was always reading kind of thing. So just by the sheer looking at him, I mean, I developed that, restarted my habit of reading kind of thing. So as far as is concerned, anything that will help you in the skill development part of it becomes very critical. Like our coordinator sir also mentioned, that that's also a lot of emphasis on the governments, from the government side also, from the respective ministers also, that we need to develop these skills, and that is what a differentiator for us kind of a thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, madam. Vijaya Institute of Technology, please, you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I'm Dr. Sureka Gangavarpu. I teach design thinking in Ideal Institute of Technology, which comes under JNTU Kakinada.
Wonderful.
I have a query, sir. I want to engage my students and I want to focus on their assessment. My question is, how can I design DT projects, that means design thinking projects, so that students genuinely apply design thinking tools such as empathy maps, brainstorming frameworks, prototypes, rather than just treating them as documentation for evaluation. I want something to be done practically for me to assess and
Right.
help them to be creative.
Right. So, again, design thinking has to be a hands-on experience kind of a thing. It has to be a project-based teaching. There's no point in doing an empathy map together, empathy map in isolation. That's the easiest part of it. In fact, for any tool, it's not what the tool does or can do. It's what you do with the tool that will start to matter kind of a thing. So when I teach design thinking at the management institutes here, so it's always a project-based work that we do, and it's I teach more in a, I don't know how much how to connect offline or share some details. Let's say if your course is for 20 hours or 40 hours, how much of duration that you would have. So what the best way to do is that when they go through each of those phases, you give a common problem. You work on a problem that is closer to the students or closer to the institute itself, like something that can help the institute, something that can help the institute of, let's say, from a placement point of view, let's say something that can help the institute from a environment point of view, or something that can help the institute, the student on their own kind of a thing, right? So if they are working on such problem, that's one thing, and also to work on problems that they would find meaningful and that they can apply kind of a thing. So the way we choose a problem that we want to work on also thing. Second thing that you do is that rather than giving them an assessment to take a problem and give you a generate an empathy map out of it, what if we do that? You host a project or a workshop kind of a session where it's like, okay, today we will focus on empathy map. Each group work on a specific project. You drop you come and explain to the rest of the audience. And if you work in groups, and they can come and explain in group, and even within a group, what you do is that emphasize that participant in the group, 5 members, every part, all
I request all the participants, please mute yourself. Mute your audio.
yeah. So some amount of participation in that sense would help, kind of help. And so, I mean, the one big thing for us to convert from an assessment or a submission point of view towards learning a new skill lies more in terms of what is the kind of problem that we would fix. We want to make sure that it's a real problem, real life problem, and work on it, and something that I would find useful. So, when I think in the 80s, when I was doing engineering, I was a computer science graduate, but I also did civil engineering surveying, carrying chains all over the place. And I also learned operations research. Now, operations research and the PERT CPM networks were so fascinating because that's the only thing that I felt at that stage. I felt that I could actually use in future. So applicability becomes a thing that, or you could also, if the students are depending upon their career aspirations. So if somebody wants to, get into research, or somebody wants to, get into a retail industry, or somebody wants to go into an MBA program or go overseas for studies, or depending upon that, also you could create those problem statements and see how it would work out, kind of a thing. So in summary, I would say it's a question about choosing the right problem to motivate them to work together, and then making them work hands-on in real life in small teams and presenting it back. That way they will learn they will learn to present, they'll develop their communication skills, they will learn to articulate their problem and their solution much better.
Thank you, sir. I've divided them already into groups, and they're also in that. And I've given them some ideas to come about with finalization of their topics for the project to be done next week. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, madam, VIT for women, Vijay Institute of Technology, please. You can speak. Madam, unmute yourself. Your audio is not audible. Please unmute mic. Madam,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Mic me unmute చేసుకోండి.
She's unmuted.
ప్లీజ్ అందరూ మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి. ఓన్లీ ఇంటరాక్ట్ అయ్యే వాళ్ళు మాత్రం అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి. ప్లీజ్ మైక్. విజయ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ ఆఫ్ టెక్నాలజీ, మీకు ఏమైనా ఇష్యూ ఉందండి? లేకపోతే అదర్వైజ్ ప్లీజ్ టెక్స్ట్ మెసేజ్. మేడం వినపట్లేదు, మీరు మాట్లాడుతుంది, మరి మీ దగ్గర ఆడియో ఇష్యూ ఉన్నట్టుంది. ఓకే, ఇంకేమీ క్వశ్చన్స్ లేకపోతే షల్ వి క్లోజ్? ఎనీ అదర్ పార్టిసిపెంట్ ప్లీజ్? యా, సుబ్రహ్మణ్యం గారు, యూ కెన్ ప్లీజ్ స్పీక్. Subramaniam, yeah, please.
Sir, is it audible, sir?
Yeah, now it is audible. Please, sir. Subramaniam, tarvata maadandi. Okay, please.
Yep.
Sir, first
Please
of all,
go.
thank you for arranging such good session, sir. So we have faced a lot of problems last year. So we don't have any idea about how to create an idea and how to give the task to the students. So as a part of that, what I included in that, first I gave that sustainable development goals to the students. And then I connected this design thinking subject with that SDG goals. So each and every batch has to create one idea regarding that SDG. One. Sir, if there is any chance, you please concentrate on that, and then students prepared very well ideas regarding all the sustainable development goals, whether it is a technology oriented or it is a non-technical oriented. They given so many ideas, sir. So that is the task I given to all the students. They make very good reports regarding that. But all the facilities are not available in all the colleges. There is some sort of chemical and there is some sort of AI based reports and there is some sort. So if we concentrate on that, then we will get more ideas regarding each and every one, sir. That is my idea and what I implement.
Great. Wonderful, ma'am. I'm extremely glad to hear the work that's being done and especially picking up the SDG goals. Like I said, the last TED talk that was done, I'd done a similar exercise with the SDG 9, the industry infrastructure and innovation, where we took one SDG goal, one initiative, and one target, and to see how design thinking can help in that particular process, kind of a thing. Again, you or your students, you can always check out that TED talk that has some guidance, and I'll be, I'm quite interested to see the work that's being done. It's a nice area to work upon, a nice innovative area to work upon, kind of a thing. I mean, maybe once you, after you have done, you can share the APCHE and you can see how we can extend that to the other institutes. See, this is all that it will allow us to do, because as we come together, we experiment, we share, and we learn, and we can grow collectively together, kind of a thing. And that is what the larger goal from the chairman, sir, and everybody is anyway, kind of a thing. My pleasure. Congratulations.
On behalf of APSCHE also, we would like to add something. Actually, this is a very important area where even NRF and NAC is also considered this SDG. And there is a separate ranking is also there. NRF is giving a ranking for the SDG apart from the innovations also. So you can club together. This will be helpful for your institution as well, apart from your career advancement scheme. For career advancement scheme also, every faculty must publish at least 1 or 2 papers on SDGs. So anyway, you are in this journey, and you can also share with us. Thank you. And now, Subramanian, please.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir, please.
Good morning.
Sir, I am very happy with that our state government and our APSCHE chairman, sir, and our resource person today providing this excellent facility for all the faculty members, this design thinking. Sir, last 5 years onwards, 20 years onwards, we are teaching this subject, sir, design thinking subject for our students from Aditya College of Engineering, Madrapalle. So we are a team here. We are teaching the subject from 2020 onwards. Initially, I myself only started this subject here. Initially, actually, JNTU Anantapur started in the 2020 years design thinking subject for mechanical engineering students and civil engineering students. So later on, they implemented for remaining all branches also, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
wonderful.
You are from CSC background. I am very happy with that, sir. Every year in a design thinking subject, we are conducting activities also, sir. In the classroom itself, we are conducting activities and we are giving some projects ideas also to the students, sir.
Sure. Great.
Sir, I need your hand and your support, sir. Please give me your contact number or mobile number or email ID. I am requesting our resource person and our chairman, sir. I want to interact personally with you to develop a lot of implementations are there to develop, to give the society, sir.
Sure.
We can give great things for the society, sir. Please give me, I am requesting, the personal requesting. I have a lot of zeal on this, sir.
Wonderful. Glad to hear. Let's get, from my, you can always get connected over LinkedIn and we can exchange ideas.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any other? Yes, madam, please, you can unmute yourself.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. This Dr. DJ Samtha Naidu, a principal of Annamacharya College of Computer Studies, Rajampeta, sir. Very glad and it's a very pleasure to have such a nice informative session, sir. Actually, being a MCA faculty members, we have learning a step-by-step process in design thinking and with respect of NAC and NBA works. But today, what the things you have explained It's a very, very, very easiest terminology you have used, and our students also very much happy. We are in one group. We have a auditorium. We have set up the program, and every week a web series conducted by the APSCHE. And I personally thank APSCHE is doing very well, and student initiative programs also, latest cutting edge technologies, bringing a very extraordinary resource persons. Here my students, now MCA 4 SEM students, actually we have attended one program at JNTUA last month back for the NRF ranking purpose. Our respected, esteemed APSCHE conducted, sir. At that period of time, the resource person discussed about the SDG goals. So 17 goals we have planned for the students. For 17 projects we have initiated, along with Indian knowledge systems also 6 projects we are initiated to the students. So after completion of your session, it quite easy as how to frame with respect of the design thinking also, and we can apply for the projects. And we need some support from the APSCHE and yourselves, sir, for applying for this, and where we require to send this process. And again, I am very thankful to you, sir, Anil Garu, getting much more efficient persons programs. Every week we are attending these sessions. That is quite useful to all the members, not related to CSC. MBA, MCA, CSC, ECE, EEE, mechanical civil, any persons can have the knowledge. And this design thinking is before we are studying in YouTube channels, we are getting very much of difficulty in understanding with the scenarios. The conference levels also resource persons are designing, but the way you have taken one single toothpaste brush example, that is it's a clean world kind of thing, sir. I'm very thankful to you, sir. Thank
My
you so
pleasure, ma'am.
much.
Thank you.
You all, if any other questions not there, we can close this session. On behalf of APSCHE, sir, really, yeah.
Second, just looking, going through the
Yes,
chat
sir. Yes,
window.
sir. Yes, sir. I just wanted to share my view of design thinking, sir. I was actually a mechanical engineering professor. Up to 2020, I established a startup on IoT and 3D printing for 3 years. Now I joined Ajinkaya University as CSC professor, sir. My personal experience with design thinking is that recently one of my colleague had said that she is facing some problem with her kid having temperature, and the nanny is illiterate, she cannot take the temperature. So with the help of ChatGPT, I developed the IoT device, an optical thermometer, which can send the message alert with respect to the temperature, irrespective of the network, because the network at home is different and the network at the college is different. And she can get a timely alert, just she puts the finger on that optical sensor and she gets the message and she feels comfortable at the workplace. So this is how design thinking has framed to devise something irrespective of the brand, sir. That is a biomedical. I understand the temperature sensors and all these particular things comes under biomedical. So the generative AI has been given a lot of advantages to devise, to design, and to implement multidisciplinary projects in our daily life, sir. That is what I would like to share my personal experience, sir. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful, thank you. So there's some questions around how design thinking can change revolution in technology and science. Like, I mean, so it's, I mean, definitely the answer is a resounding yes kind of a thing. So we are getting into new technologies, new spaces kind of a thing. Like the example that Ganesh sir just mentioned, if you have a certain solution and if you want to go wide, see, design thinking is all about divergent and convergent kind of thing. What was just shared is an example, good example of a divergence. You have a certain problem and you want to explore all the possible solutions kind of a thing. You can reach out to connect it with AI and you can get that. Alternatively, if AI feeds or gives us a lot of input or an extract from various sources, then you can also apply the design thinking rule of convergence and see what is the best one. And like I said earlier, how do we convert that of information towards insight kind of a thing. So that's the answer to, I think, I don't have the name on this person. There's a question from Divya which says, can new jobs be created solely based upon design thinking? Design thinking, it's more of a skill that can help you in any particular job that you have. But I don't think we have yet a role which says that, okay, design thinker or a chief design officer. It is evolving. It is more of a moderating role that we'll have. So I did one of the, I mean, before the strategic advisor, I was the chief design officer for one particular group. But that is more towards facilitating this kind of a discussions or introducing these principles and helping them to do it. But the larger gain of design thinking is more as a skill which could be applicable to anyone and everyone and in any part of their jobs or a career kind of a thing. Right. Okay. And I think I think those are just the two questions. Back to you, Anil, sir.
Yeah, sir, really very nice presentation, and your services are very much required, sir, because your government is thinking of beyond processing, because in software side, our Telugu people are very good, but now today's, as per government initiatives, we are also looking beyond software, that is product design. So in this connection today at 3 o'clock, we are having a huge hand-holding session with students, sir. More than 80,000 students will be joining by NPTEL on quantum computing and Qiskit. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning. I request all the participants, please send your students to this conference at 3 o'clock. I shared the link also. Sir, in this connection also, as government is planning different technologies at Amravati, Vishakhapatnam, Tirupati, on different cutting edge technologies like quantum, AI, semiconductor, fabrication, and non-renewable energy like this. So we are again requesting, as per our Honorable CM vision, every university should be a center of excellence in one product. So in designing the product also, in next session, that is physical session, kindly throw some light on these aspects, sir.
Will do.
Yes, sir. Really, it is a wonderful session and a lot of feedback is coming. I request all the participants, please be in touch with today's resource person. He will be available. Even with his permission, I can also share his contact number so that you can also invite him physically whenever he is available in Andhra Pradesh. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. It is almost 2 hours, beyond 2 hours. Really very engaging and very inspiring session. Thank you, sir. On behalf of APSCHE and on behalf of my chairperson, Professor K. Madhumurthy Garu, he is really wanted to have a session with you physically, and definitely we will invite you again, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Very much.
One
Thanks.
request, please involve all your students for this 3 o'clock session, because, sir, it is really on quantum education. It is going to be the world's largest program.
Okay.
Across AP, only AP, there are more than 80,000 students enrolled already.
Right. Wonderful.